plus times. More than an 85% occupancy rate, which from a gentleman who owns hotels who sits on our board tells us is pretty good. So now the thing we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce homelessness. We're trying to end chronic homelessness, and we've had some significant results. But part of it starts with being able to provide meals for people who are hungry. Is that people choosing between buying food or eating meals and paying their rent, this can be a serious issue. So we actually served 130,000 meals, 10,000 more, almost 11,000 a month, and we provided almost 250,000 grocery meals, meaning that we're feeding a large number of people in the community who can't afford to buy groceries. And that can be anyone you know, because a lot of people don't realize that somebody who's recently gone through a divorce and still has the bills that were associated with them being together, but they're now paying them on their own, can run out of money at the end of the month, or going to the hospital and having a medical bill that's quite expensive that they didn't expect. It impacts their ability to buy food. And there's been more than one time when we had a parent show up with a child saying, I can't feed my child, and I have a full-time job, and I don't understand how this happened. 65% of the clients that we serve are successfully housed. 37% reduction in the number of chronically homeless people over the last 2 years. Now, what does that mean for a community? What that means is that the folks that are always on the street, begging, sleeping in a box, rolling their carts around, have been moved out of the streets, into shelter, and then into homes. And our goal is to maintain stability. Keeping them housed costs the community less money. It keeps them out of prison, it keeps them out of hospital rooms, and it costs less money than sheltering. So we've already seen in the last 2 years a 37% reduction in the number of chronically homeless. And one of the questions we got from the foundation is, you're serving fewer people. Can you explain that? And that's a good thing, because that's what we want to do. 99% data quality. We talked about having access to computers. We work to have data that's telling us what we need to know so that we can share it with the community. So we set a goal of having better data quality. We've moved from 89% to 99% in the last year. And what that means is we're tracking the work we're doing better and being able to reflect the impact. Are we getting more income for our clients? Are we able to show that they increased their income, they got income? Are we housing more people and keeping them housed? Can we measure how many are staying housed? That's what we include in our data quality. One of the things we also look at is how well we serve people who aren't in the shelter. We are a homeless outreach shelter, so our job is to find people who are living in tents, living in parks, living in cemeteries. There was a gentleman who was actually living in a cemetery that we just recently housed. He refused to come to shelter, but he's housed for the first time in 2 years. We serve an average of 50 a year. Today I had a meeting and discussed with the staff. We actually had touch points with 147 individuals who were street homeless, meaning they're living in their car, they're living in their truck, they're living in a garage, or they're living in a park in the last year. So 147 individuals were served through our homeless outreach program. And we conducted 259 coordinated access appointments. What that means, that's sort of our jargon language, is we kept people from becoming homeless. They came in expecting that they were going to lose their housing, they were going to end up in our shelter in some way, shape, or form, and we were able to divert them and keep them from becoming homeless and help them find solutions, even if it was temporary, because that's a better place for them. We also provided case management for people who are housed. So some people are never going to be able to manage on their own. And I'll use a quick example of 2 boys that were in our shelter and just recently became housed together. One of them came to us from his job, his employer called. He has an intellectual disability. He makes $400 a month. He'd always lived with his mother, then he lived with his sister. Mom died, sister got ill, they foreclosed on the house. So he showed up with a suitcase at work. And his boss said, what's going on? And he said, I don't have anywhere to sleep. And they called us. So he showed up at our shelter. We made him feel welcome. Particularly because he has an intellectual disability, we wanted him to understand that he was safe there and that he could be comfortable there. And during our conversations with him, we discovered there wasn't just one of him. there were 3 of him. He had one brother that was living in a park and another brother who was street homeless somewhere. And we went and found him. Second brother came and lived with us, other one stayed street homeless. He did not want to come into a shelter. So the 2 brothers lived with us for a little over a year while we helped them stay stable, get healthy. John, the first one, had never scheduled a doctor's appointment on his own. We have health care at our building twice a week. When he got sick, he learned how to work with the doctor so that he could stay healthy. Those are everyday stories. Now the 2 of them just moved into a 2-bedroom apartment, and they're getting support from us because they need supportive housing. They need someone to help them manage their money. They need someone who's helped them. They didn't know they were eligible for Social Security, disability. Both of them are disabled. We connected them to that. And John still goes to work every single day, making $400 a month, but he goes to work every single day. And they still come in for meals. So that's what supportive housing is about. So last year we had 27 shelter-owned apartments, and we did more than 20 additional scattered site. By the end of next year, that number will be closer to 50, and we'll be doing 50 scattered site because we're reducing the number living in the shelter, moving them into housing, and then supporting them so they're successful. And we serve as a financial fiduciary for people who can't manage their money. So we get their money, we write their checks for them, we make sure they're paying their bills. So this is about having effective practices. And when you do that, you have to be involved. So our staff serve on numerous committees, are involved in the community, they're listening to what's going on. They are engaged in not only issues that affect us, but issues that we're looking ahead to see what else we should be doing. The staff served in leadership roles. We were on the 100-day campaign, which resulted in 92 individuals and 68 families being housed in Fairfield County. That project was designed to have grassroots staff working together to talk about how they make things happen and learn from each other. We also are a part of community care teams, which is a weekly meeting with hospitals to look at frequent users of emergency rooms, and we had a 52% reduction in the number of people who were using the emergency rooms. Hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're saving because we're using different ways to get people to health care. And we're maintaining that stability as part of this discussion. And this is a community discussion. So this all happens because you have to have a strong leadership team in our view. And I think when we looked at the leadership goal, these are some of our board members, they look excited. We said it starts with staff training. So what we've implemented is that 90% of the staff completed mental health first aid. And what that means is not just case managers. Everybody from the receptionist at the front door to the maintenance man has completed mental health first aid. Why? Because a good majority of the folks that come through our door have some sort of mental health issue, and we need to know how to deal with it. Whether you're the guy who's fixing the toilet in their apartment or in their room, or the person who's greeting them at the front door. 90% of the staff. And there's actually a national initiative to get a million people trained in mental health first aid because it's such an exciting program. 25% participated in safety management. So we improved the safety of our shelter and made sure that it was more secure. We also had 100% of this case management team become certified in critical time intervention, which is an evidence-based case management module, and they're working as teams to apply it so that 85% of our folks stay housed, and 100% of them participated in case notes training. So advancing their education so they would be better at their work. The board leadership also launched a business plan of a new project and said, we're going to make sure that we have all the pieces in place, the financial assessment and updates to make sure that we're on track as an organization. And then finally, as one of our goals is that we will cultivate a strong community and volunteer core support. So these are 2 of our volunteers that help run our food pantry program. We established a community advisory team so that we could demonstrate to people that we were involved in the community on a local level. They're doing cleanup in the community. We had a collective response. We worked with them on zoning issues. We helped them understand our shelter's work and asked them to give us feedback. And we have this ongoing partnership for cleanup. We're right now cleaning from our shelter all the way down to the police station and picking up trash and making sure that the neighborhood's safe. We've also worked with Columbus Magnet School to make sure that the parking lots and the playgrounds are safe for the kids, because sometimes people leave trash that's not good for them. We have established partnerships with the Junior League of Norwalk, which renovated our Children's Resource Center. We have an after-school program where kids go and learn. They provide the books. We provided an update to that room. We actually added a early childhood education program last year. We partnership with the Kiwanis to do painting, mattresses, and comforts in the family shelter. Norotan Presbyterian Church gave us playground updates. What this is really showing you is that this is about working together. And I think that's part of the message here, is that this is really a partnership that we have with our funders, and it's a partnership with other organizations to make sure that things like preschool education can happen, so that moms don't end up not know how to care for their kids or how to be involved in their child's education. So we believe we provide hope. When I see in the faces of the 20 children that they're coming in and they're getting a healthy snack and they're safe, that's part of it. It's also helping the moms know that their kids are safe at night. We change their lives. We help people get jobs. We help them reestablish themselves in the community. We give them a hand up, not a hand out. We expect everybody's working on their own strengths so that they can move beyond the crisis that they're in. And finally, we think it takes a village. It takes everybody working together to make it happen. So everybody who works with Open Door Shelter has a plan. It starts with the basics of food and shelter. Every child goes to school and gets after-school tutoring. We have transition coaches to work with them on income and housing and help them find resources. And we provide health care, mental health, and addiction through our partnerships to make things happen in our shelter. So having a huge impact, serving almost 1,800 people on an annual basis between our food programs and our sheltering is what we're about as an organization.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeanette. It's wonderful. She didn't even begin to talk about the Smilo Sono Life Center, but that's a wonderfully ambitious project that we're looking forward to in the next year, watching the development on. So next we're going to move forward and have Linda O'Toole, the Executive Director of Laurel House. Linda, I am teeing up the program.
There's numbers on these, I think, is
Linda, I can pass this out for you too. And do you want the clicker or do you want me to do it for you? Okay, it's that way. There you go.
Thank you so much for inviting us this evening, and it was delightful to hear the next presentation. We do collaborate and open doors for Fairfield County, so it's really nice to see each other in different form. I appreciate that. You know, Jake mentioned investing, if you will, and getting involved in organizations that are in different parts of their development, whether it's best in class and so on. I think what we're most thankful about is when we weren't best in class, Community Fund of Darien invested in us. I joined Laurel House at the end of 2010 with a mission by our board to turn us from a clubhouse model, if any of you have ever heard of that. Fountain House in New York is sort of the mothership for that, where people who were deinstitutionalized in the, largely in the 80s, when a lot of the hospitals were closed for mental illness, were sent pretty much with a bus pass and a directive to go to a local clubhouse. And there were many of them all over the state. There were as many as 30 in Massachusetts. There were about 10 in Connecticut. And Laurel House in 1984 became one of those, received federal funding and did that. So it was a great concept in terms of satisfying the need for people who had nowhere to go, who had severe, persistent mental illness. It was very rights-oriented, trying to help them reintegrate into society, not necessarily into the local community, but it became a really important touchstone for them. So literally, Community Fund of Darien has seen us come out of the clubhouse world to starting in 2011, when I had joined, to embark on a completely new strategic direction. And that was to be outbound, community-focused, to serve more people, one to many, not just all of our investments in a few people. So what I'm gonna tell you a little bit about is the makeover of a 33-year-old agency, and I'll have just a few slides, so I'm trying to be sensitive to your time. But really, the guts of the direction that we embarked on was early intervention and remediation. Let's not just work with the individuals, which were roughly less than 300 people in up to about 2010, who were heavily invested in, and we made their lives wonderful, but in some cases we enabled them. We really didn't force them to get on into the community, to learn worthy skills, to move along with the rest of the world. So it became a bit of a cocoon, although a very welcoming and hospitable one. And we really couldn't continue that. It wasn't sustainable financially, but it also wasn't good for mental health recovery. So early intervention and remediation meant not just to help those individuals, but to start working with families and the natural support systems, and to get in there as young as we could. And it's an adult focus, so it's 18 and up, so when I say as young as we can, it's usually around 16. And 14 is an important age, many of you may know, because that's typically when 50% of the life